Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, Penguin Powered Gaming. Today I wanted to go over something a little bit different. While this isn't necessarily a tech channel, I do know a lot about tech. And I just wanted to go over some gaming news essentially. This year at Computex, AMD revealed some pretty exciting news for us gamers. One of the things that they announced, memory, as you all know, memory prices are out the roof with the current state of AI buying up all of the sticks of RAM they can get to run these giant data centers. So you guys that are still on a AM4 platform, that it's really good news for you guys because they're bringing back after for their 10-year anniversary, they're bringing back the Ryzen 7 5800X3D, which also has 96 megabytes of L3 Vcache. If you're on an AM4 platform and you're not ready to upgrade and you don't have a X3D processor or CPU, I would kind of recommend looking into this and trying to snag one of these 10th anniversary editions. It does cost quite a bit to kind of upgrade with DDR5 RAM, motherboard, CPU. Maybe you might even do graphic card. So you might save a little bit of money and prolong your PC by especially if you can update your BIOS. And your BIOS will support a Ryzen 7, and maybe you have, I don't know, like a 350 or 450 type motherboard. You might be able to upgrade to the 58X3D. So that might be something you're interested in. They also announced AM5 support is going to go through 2029, which is fantastic for everyone that's still on AM5. I'm not sure if an AM6 processor is going to be compatible with the current AM5 boards. My guess is no. So any extended support that we get for AM5 is all for the better, in my opinion. We have kind of an entry-level processor they announced also, but if you're more budget conscious, this is definitely maybe an option. You can also go with like the 7800X3D as well. So there are some budget-friendly options in there, and I'll go over some of the pricing as well. I just want to talk about what they announced and then kind of compare some of the gaming processors. They also announced ultra-low latency memory. Now, essentially, you have memory companies like G.Skill, Crucial, Kingston, companies like that, and they can modify their primary timings. So, like your cache latency, normally you'll see memory timings like, for example, I believe mine when I purchased it was 30, 38, 38, 96, I believe. But you can actually tweak those timings down, and depending on the silicon lottery, you might be able to actually get better timings. Right now, I'm actually running a 28 cache latency. So essentially, mine is, if I have to look at my BIOS again, but I think it was 28. Let me think. 35. 33, 60, 65, 66, something like that. But these companies, they're allowed in their AMD Expo profile, they're allowed to tweak the primary timings, but they're not allowed to tweak the sub timings. So when you overclock a PC or when you overclock your memory, you can go in there and you can tweak all of those subtimings yourself. It's very intensive. It's very time consuming. I generally don't recommend it to everyone. I have mine very much tweaked and tuned. and I get really low latency compared to like my latency. I have 6,000 memory, and I can actually outperform 6400 memory just because I have my subtimings tuned as well as my primary timings. But the good news is, with this ultra low latency memory that they're advertising, they can actually tune the subtimings as well. So that might be a benefit for us. However, I'm sure the pricing is not going to be cheap. So that would definitely, I mean, that's essentially for gamers for sure, as well as these processors. And then we also have a 9070 GRE, which is kind of like a 9070 XT cut in half or less memory, or a 9070 with less memory. I'm not really interested in that news, but I am interested in the ultra low latency, the extended support, and bringing back the 5800X3D. That is, in my opinion, a really good move for AMD and anyone that's on a DDR4 AM4 platform. So let's kind of compare these CPUs. If you go to let's see, it's product specifications and processor specifications, you can actually get this huge list of all of AMD's CPUs, and you can compare them side by side. If you just want to look at the X3D, which is primarily the gaming processors, you can do that, and it will filter all of that for you. Maybe. Oh, if I would put it in the search bar, that is. But yeah, it will filter all of that for you and kind of show you all of the X3Ds. Today, let's look at 4 gaming processors, and I'm going to kind of give you my opinion on which ones you should purchase and maybe the pros and cons. So first we have the 5800X3D, which is an AM4 platform. Then we're going to have the 9800X3D. Then we're going to have the 9850X3D, which is the CPU that I have. And then we're going to go with the 9950X3D. And we're going to compare these. Okay, so if you're building a gaming PC, all of these are valid. They have their merits. You can't go wrong with any of these processors. So let me just say that outright. If you are on, like I said, an AM4 platform, and you have $350 to spare, because that's around what the prices is. I think it's around $350 last I checked. It's an 8-core processor with 3.4 base clock, and it boosts up to 4.5. The 9800X3D boosts up to 5.2, so that's fairly close. And you have the 96 megabytes of L3 cache. Now, you can underclock it, to my knowledge, but you can't overclock like you can a traditional CPU, and that should be fine. You have a default TDP of 105 watts, which is lower than any of the other processors, and I think they do that because on these CPUs, this generation, that L3 cache was very sensitive to heat, and which is why they kind of restrict overclocking a little bit. But for a gaming PC where your GPU is going to be doing most of the work anyhow, this is great. And that 96 megabytes of L3 cache, that's going to help you with those 1% lows. So if you're not ready to jump to AM5, absolutely, and you got $350 to spend, I would go with that one. Next up is the 9800X3D. Now, this has been the king of the king of the mountain, king of the hill, cream of the crop, whatever you want to say. This has been the gold standard for gaming CPUs for a while now. The 9800X3D boosts up to 5.2 gigahertz. I actually had one of these CPUs. I had no problem tearing through benchmarks, tearing through games. It has a base clock of 4.7. It is a little hotter. It runs at 120 watts, but this CPU is very, very efficient. I don't think you can go wrong with that whatsoever. It does have the max operating temp is a little higher than the 5800X3D by 5 degrees Celsius. But this has been around since 2024. In my opinion, you can't go wrong. Now, the price on this, it's only about a $40 difference than the new 9850X3D. I think it's around, I want to say like $450. You probably will see it go on sale soon, but it's around $450, and this one is about $30 to $40 cheaper. So I would say if there is a deal to be had, get the 9800, and I say that because I have the 9850. I've overclocked both. I've gamed with both. You're not going to see that big of a difference, honestly. I have the 9850X3D overclocked. It already has a max boost clock of 5.6 gigahertz. You can actually boost this just a little bit over 5.8. So it depends on what you do with like your curve optimizer, but you can get really good performance of the 9850X3D, but it's not, in my opinion, it's not as efficient as the 9800 because you're only getting, I don't know, maybe 5% to 10% improvement, maybe 5% improvement, and you're seeing like a 20% power draw or more power draw than you would with a 9800. So a 20% power draw extra for 5% improvement, and it's $30 to $40 more at about $480, something like that. I would go with the 9800 if there was a sale. If I was building a new PC, price that $40, $30, whatever, didn't matter that much to me. And it didn't really, that wasn't as much of a factor because the price was, I was building a new PC anyhow when I built mine. So I went with the 9850. I did have a 9800 before, and I ended up returning it for the 9850 as it had just came out, and I don't really regret that. I'm very happy with the 9850. I've seen it boost up to 5.8, and it just tears through games. But generally, your CPU isn't doing as much work as your GPU in a lot of these games, but in open world games, like if you're playing like Elder Scrolls, if you're playing Oblivion, like Oblivion Remastered, or Baldur's Gate 3, things like that, even open world shooters, this L3 cache, you can't go wrong. It's going to really, really help you. Now, the last processor I wanted to talk about is the AMD Ryzen 9 9950X3D. This processor is a 16-core processor. It's currently, with 32 threads, it's currently the flagship of AMD's gamer type processor. This one is a little more than a gaming processor, however, because of the amount of extra cores that it has. Essentially, it's for productivity. Current games do not take advantage as much out of 16 cores. Many of the games can't even take advantage of 8 cores, much less 16. So where the 9950X3D comes into play and is really, really handy is if you're multitasking, if you're streaming, if you're doing video encoding, all at the same time as you're like playing a game or something like that, you're going to get a great deal of benefit out of this processor. Now, the last time I looked up the price, I think it was just a little bit over $650. So you're going to pay a pretty penny for this. It definitely has the most power draw, 170 watts. But if your primary focus is gaming and you're okay, like the 9850 can do video encoding just fine, but not as good as a 16 core 32 thread processor, right? But if price is no object and you really want a gaming PC that can also serve as a high-end, high-performance productivity, then this is your processor. Otherwise, if I was going to go with AM5, I would go with one of these two, depending on if the 9800 X3D had a sale, or if I was building a PC and that extra cost really wasn't a factor for me. And if you are stuck on the AM4 platform for a while and you don't plan on upgrading, then the 5800 X3D is going to really help you out with those open world type games. Anyways, I hope this helped you make a decision and was better informative. Like I said, this isn't really a tech channel, but these are gaming processors. Currently, these are kind of the cream of the crop of what you want to pick. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.